All good? All right, Brandy, love you, thank you.
My name's Brandy, like I said, and I'm just going to tell you a little bit about my past and what got me here today. Growing up, my childhood was good. My parents did everything they could for us. They always made sure we had, food, everything, clothes. We begged them for the new things, the brand new stuff, the trends that were coming out, and made sure we got them. But my parents drank. Growing up, there was always alcohol in the refrigerator. And it was normal to see it in there. So I thought so. So growing up, we'd go to a friend's house on the weekends, and parents would play cards and stuff, and we would just go hang out with their kids, and I just thought what you did when you grew up. So I couldn't wait to grow up. You get to do cool stuff. Well, it's not cool. So, early childhood, about teenage years, I started drinking and smoking on the weekends because I thought that's what you did. We had a 12 o'clock curfew, was driving, go to the track strip, hang out, drink, come home. Everyone there. Everyone did it. We hung out with. We thought it was okay. Well, when I was 17, I met the love of my life, Derek. And we were dating about 9 months, and I got pregnant with our first child, Kelsey. We didn't really know what parenthood was about. It was hard for us. He was a year younger than me. He was a junior in high school, and I was a senior. So it was just hard for us. I lived with my parents. He lived with his. So we finally moved into Amberwood. Now y'all are familiar with that. So, yeah. So we started having the get-togethers at our house. Our friends come over, we drank, hung out, smoked weed, did whatever. What we thought was the right thing to do with our child there. Well, it's not. He eventually started drinking a lot. He would drink from the moment he got home from work till the moment he went to bed. He would start leaving and going out with his friends and leaving me and Kelsey at home by ourselves. He would start fights just so he could go. So I would just let him. And I thought that was okay. We missed part of our childhood. We had a baby young. Well, the drinking and the drinking got worse, and he became violent. We started physically fighting. So I thought if I joined him on drinking, it would make things better. He would want to stay at home. Boy, was I wrong. Because I started drinking more than he did. It was not good. I started drinking and taking pills, probably about 21. And it just led to total chaos. I was depressed. I didn't want to function. I was just by myself. I thought I was alone. I eventually got pregnant with our second child, Jackson, and I thought that would change things. Thought we would be the picture-perfect family and everything would be okay. But as soon as Jackson was born, we went back to the same old things. Drinking, smoking, partying, etc. We brought our kids into total chaos, and we didn't even know. We were putting generational curses on our kids, and I didn't even know what those were then. If y'all don't believe in general curses, they're real, and you need to break them off your kids right now. Well, I started having some female problems, and I had to have a hysterectomy. Well, that introduced me to the world of opiates, and that forever changed my life. I came home from the hospital with Demerol and Percocet 10 for 3 months straight. I literally was a zombie. During these 3 months, I began to hang out with the wrong crowd and figure I could doctor shop. This time I started getting prescription pain pills and Xanaxes and just hanging around with the wrong people. I lost a bunch of weight and I got caught up in the lifestyle of that life. It just consumed me before I knew it. My life started spiraling out of control fast. I got the attention I wanted from my husband through other men. I lost all respect for myself and began losing myself. I eventually left my husband and moved in at the dope house. I figured out I could get meth a lot cheaper than pills, so that opened a brand new door in my life. I shut my family out, guys. I let drugs control my life. I went from being a part of my family's life to not talking to them at all. I have a twin sister. She was my best friend. I didn't talk to her for 2 months. She would text my phone to make sure I was alive, and I wouldn't respond, so she could know where I was. But thank God for my mother. She didn't enable me. Boy, I tried. She didn't. My dad, though, I couldn't handle daddy's little girl, what can I say? I remember being at mom's the one time I showed up, and she was calling me out of my crap, and we had gotten into it. She was telling me to leave. I didn't want to. So I told her I had a right to be there. I was part of the family, when really I wasn't. I walked out on her. So we got into it, and she called the law. Many times I had been escorted out of my parents' property because I would not leave, because I was showing my rear end. One time I was standing in her kitchen. This time I left before the law got there. And I told her, I said, I pray every night to God that you die. I have never hated someone in my life as much as I hate you. And I walked out the door and didn't talk to her. And now, as a mother, now that I have feelings back, if my child ever said that to me, I couldn't imagine the pain. But God. Well, the weeks went on and months went on, and still the same old stuff. I went on one of my weekend binges and didn't talk to anyone. So I was sitting at home and heard a car door pull up, and it was my grandpa. And for those of y'all that don't know, my grandpa was my life. And he came in my house, and he was crying. And he said, Brandy, he said, I'm 73 years old, and I do not want to bury my grandchild. He said, I don't have many years left. He said, and I don't want to die remembering you like this, because I don't even know who you are. And I told him to get the blank out of my house. He had a stroke a year later, and I never apologized. He now cannot talk or walk. So he knows I'm there, but I can never know the words that he has to say. He forgives me. So I deal with that every day. Finally, I just got tired. The running, the games, the constant worrying if I'm going to jail, the in and out of places to live, sleeping on couches, trying to pay bills. I always got high. I wouldn't pay my bills though. Just how it was. So I wanted a fresh start. So Derek and I started back talking, but things had to be different. We promised each other things would. He swore he would quit drinking, and I swore I would stop taking pills. At this point in my life, I had an apartment. He was keeping the kids there. And I got off work, and I came home and noticed he had been drinking. It was the second night I had let him stay there. So I figured we were going to try to work on things. Well, when I saw all the beer cans in the trash can, I knew it was going to be a bad night. We were supposed to watch a movie and talk and work on things, but he kept bringing up the past, kept saying he wasn't good enough, kept saying everything I had done, the back and forth fighting. He began to get angry. This was a different anger I hadn't seen. He started pacing back and forth, and I kept telling him to calm down, and he wouldn't listen. His eyes turned black. I started telling him that he just needed to go to sleep, because I knew once the high got off, once he got done being drunk, he'd be fine. Well, that didn't work. He just kept getting mad and mad. He finally pulled a knife from his back pocket and told me I better call 911. I've never seen him look this way, and my heart sank into my chest. All I could think about was getting out of my apartment because my kids were home. I ran outside and he chased me. He grabbed me by the back of my hair and threw me on the ground. He swung a knife and sliced my cheek open. He sat on top of my chest with his knees in my throat and began crying, kept saying over and over how sorry he was. He put the knife to my throat where I put my hand to try to fight it off. He just kept crying. I couldn't understand what was happening. As I lay there screaming for help and him just repeating, I'm sorry, he let me up and he just said, things are going to be different now. I was rushed to the hospital to have emergency hand surgery, and he was taken to Marshall County. I know most of y'all think it's crazy that we're still together to this day, but if that not would have happened, we wouldn't be here today. He got bailed out and entered the Sunshine House a year and a half ago. At that time, DHR got involved in our house and put us in a safe home. I tried right off coming to celebrate church, to make things work with Derek, to try to get on the right track, but I just didn't do it. I was coming to church, putting a front on that most people do, still getting high, missing drug tests and all. DHR temporarily put custody in my parents' hand, so I figured parents had custody of my kids. I straightened up. I was lying to everyone. I was manipulated and thought it was okay because that's how I was used to. You can only come to church and stay so long before you either get it fully or just fall back. Well, I slid back. I ran right back to my past because it's always waiting there. Same old people doing the same old stuff with nothing better to do. Except this time I had conviction. Every time I got high, I cried. I knew I was doing something wrong. I knew I was disappointing people. So this high didn't last long. I called my dad and asked if I could come home, and he told me no. He told me to go to my grandmother's. So I came home and went to my grandmother's, and I began to detox there. September 4th of last year was my start in recovery. It hasn't been easy. I was worried sick that my relapse would affect my family and my husband. When I finally talked to Derek when I got home, this is what really stuck with me. I asked him, I said, I was worried about you relapsing. And he said, Brandy, my recovery has nothing to do with you. If I was doing this for you, I would have failed months ago. I'm doing this for me. And that's so true. You have to do it for yourself. You cannot do it for anyone else. If you are tired of living the way you're living, make a step towards Christ. So many of us go to Christ when we are in trouble or when you're sitting in Marshall County Jail or any jail, and you get out and you go back to the same old stuff. It's time to realize where the right choice is. You don't have to live depressed, angry, with anxiety. He can take it all if you're willing to give it to him. I was told I would never get my kids back from DHR, and I got them back 6 months ago. When God tells you you can get your life back, you don't have to live with shame and regret, because I struggle with that. My past haunts me every day, but that all is Satan has. Satan will use your past to destroy you if you let him. He wants you to fail. If he sees you succeeding, he doesn't like that. He is raising hell to get you to go back. The drugs and alcohol you chose to do does not make you happy. It only numbs the situation, taking your mind off it. When you get sober, you still have the problems you had before. You just deal with them differently. So please take a step towards God. God will put out the dark hole of your addiction, depression, toxic relationship, or whatever problem is in your life, Jesus Christ is the answer, guys.
Listen, you know what God has done in Brandy's life? There's somebody in this room right now that's right where she was. There's somebody in this room. Man, what are we waiting on? Next week, another time, how about tonight? So all I'm going to do, now y'all have to wait a second because there's 2 songs that Mike's supposed to play unless y'all are singing them. So. Mike, you got it? There you go. So as these songs play, go ahead and bring your lights down just a little bit. Y'all stand up with us.